Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Aliyah. So if you're new here, thank you so much for stopping by, and thank you to all my subscribers for subscribing to my channel. So in my previous video I showed how to draft the patterns of an A-line dress with a center front waist design. So in this tutorial I'll be showing you how to cut it out and then sew it. You can also find the drafting tutorial in the description box below. Okay, so let's get into the video. So you'll be needing your patterns and all. You also need your Ankara prints. Well, I'll be using a plain fabric for the sleeve because my Ankara print is not it won't be enough for this design. So if you have about 3 yards or 3 meters of fabric, it's fine, but mine is just 2 yards. That's why I decided to use this plain for the sleeve. And also hair stay or tissue gum. You also need some buttons and some zipper. So in my previous video I was saying that I'll be making it into a dress, so I'll be using both buttons and then zipper for this dress. So I'm just gonna go ahead and then lay my fabric on the table and then place my patterns on it and then add all the allowance I'm gonna add to it. Then I'll show you what to do next. So after I was done adding all my allowances and everything to the pieces, so I added allowance to the top part, that's the shoulder here, the bottom part here, and then the sides that I was going to join. You know, in the pattern I already added 1 inch allowance to the side here. Yeah, so if you take out my drafting tutorial, you know what I'm talking about. Before separating the pieces, I went ahead to notch it a bit here. So this notch just tells you where the center front here starts from. So make sure you notch it so it doesn't confuse you when you are joining the pieces of fabric together. Okay, so I also went ahead to iron my hair stay on all the pieces right here. So at this point you can just go ahead and join all your pieces together like so. So right where you've notched, just start the smaller piece from that point here. And for the back piece too, I also went ahead to notch that point here. So I'm just going to join the small piece right here. So after joining all my pieces, I went ahead to join my lining too. So after pinning them at this point, you're just going to go ahead, mark your ½ inch seam allowance here, then just take it to the machine and then stitch all the pieces together. So after stitching all my pieces together, I'm just gonna go ahead and then press it with my iron. And when it comes to the front area, I'm just going to be snipping in here a bit. Then I'll go ahead and use my tailor's hammer to press it in. So after you're done pressing it and all, we're going to be joining the front neckline and the back necklines together using our lining pieces. So after pinning it down, I'm just going to take it to my machine and then sew my ½ inch allowance for both back and front pieces. Okay, so I'm done joining my neckline here. So make sure when you're stitching the front piece, it comes to past this point by like a quarter, like what you've seen me do here. I also went ahead to trim away about a ½ inch at this point here. So before we turn it to the right side and press it, we are going to be snipping in the corners here so that we'll have when we turn it to the other side, it will turn in very well. So just make sure that you snip it in at this point just a bit. Do that same thing for the back, and then it's time to press it in. Okay, so after I finished pressing it, I went ahead to top stitch the remaining allowance on the fabric so that it lays well like so. So it will be showing like this. So just go ahead, open the piece like this, place the remaining allowance that you have left here, the allowance that you trimmed here, just place it on the lining like so, and then just go ahead and then top stitch it from here all the way to the other end here. So you do that for the other pieces, for the other front pieces and then the back pieces, which I've already done, as you can see. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to be stitching this design right here. So just turn it in like this, wrong side to wrong side like this, then you just go ahead and then pin it. Then I'll take it to my machine and sew 1/2 inch allowance from here all the way to the other side here. So I'm done stitching it. I'm just going to trim it in and then snip it a bit at that pointy side. Then I'll turn it to the other side and then press it. So after pressing it, this is how it looks like. So we're going to be joining our shoulders now. So just place it right side to right side like this. So when you place the back on the front like so, just open it, make sure that the lining meets the lining and then the fabric meets the fabric like this, and then pin the middle. Okay, so I'm just going to pin this part and then go ahead and sew 1/2 inch from here to the other side. So when you're done with this side, also do the same thing for the other side. So after I was done stitching it, I went ahead to trim the shoulder here for both sides, and then just turn it in to the right side like so. So the next thing we're going to be doing is joining our side and side. So just place the back side on the front side like this. Make sure that all the lining pieces and the main fabrics align. Then you're just going to go ahead and then pin it. Okay, so remember I added 1 inch allowance for my side here, so that's just exactly what I'm going to sew. So you're going to do that same thing to the other side. So after I'm done sewing my sides, it's time for me to cut out my sleeve. So I'll be stitching my sleeve on my top before joining the skirt to it. So I'll be using 1 yard or 1 meter of plain fabric for my sleeve like so. So I'm just gonna go ahead and then measure and cut out my sleeve. So with the 1 yard, I just went ahead, I folded it into 2, then I folded it again like so that I'll be cutting the 2 sleeves at the same time. Okay, so I'll be using a length of 28 for my sleeve. So we're going to be working on the top part now. So with the top part, you'll be going in about 4 inches here. And then from this line, go in by 1 inch. And then blend it from here back to the tip. Make sure you blend it in well. From this point we marked here, we're going to measure 4 inch in again. Mark it down and then go down by another 4 inch. So from this point, you are going to be blending it back into here. So just make sure that when you blend it, it goes to meet that point here. If you can't do this with your hand, you can go ahead and use your curve to join the parts together. So before you measure your armhole here, go ahead and then measure the armhole for the top. So I'll be measuring the front here. Okay, so mine is 8.5 inches. So whatever you get here, just transfer it onto this point. So this is my 8.5 inches here, plus 1 inch stitching allowance. Okay, so I'll just be maintaining the width for this part, since I'll be adding an elastic band for the bottom part here. But if you want yours smaller, you can just go ahead and then maybe your around wrist times, you can multiply it by 3 or something. Whatever you get is what you use at this point here. So my width is okay because I really want it to be puffy. So I'm just, from the 1 inch allowance I marked here, I'm just going to blend it in from that point all the way to the tip here. Okay, so the point, or should I say the edge here, is looking too pointy for me, so I'm just gonna go ahead and then just blend it in like this. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and cut out my sleeve. So I have my 2 sleeves now. So what I'm going to do is I'll be working on the bottom part right here. So with the bottom part right here, I'm just going to go ahead and then serge it. After I'm done serging it, I'll just fold it in 1 inch to the wrong side like this, and then sew it again. Okay, so this is what I was talking about. So after serging it and stitching it like this, I'm just going to go ahead and insert my elastic inside here. So I'm going to be measuring around my wrist. So my wrist is 6.5, and I'll add my allowance, my stitching allowance too. Since I'll be stitching 1 inch here and then 1 inch at the other side, so that'll be 2 inch allowance, right? So I'll be cutting 6.5 plus 2 inch allowance for on my elastic. So I'll go ahead and then cut 2, since I'll be using it on the 2 sleeves. Okay, so I'll be using my safety pin to be inserting it in. So just take the first one and then insert it in like this. Make sure that you pin it at the end here so that it stays in place. Okay, so when you reach the end like this, just go ahead and secure that side too, and then you can remove the safety pin now. So when you're done, just fold them in like this. Pin it from this point all the way to the top here. You know I added 1 inch allowance to the top too, so I'll just stitch my 1 inch allowance from here all the way to that part. I'll do that for the second one too. Okay, so I'm done stitching the sleeves. This is how it's looking like. So now I'm going to join it to the top. So you're going to take the right side of the sleeve and then join it to the right side of your top, and then pin it at this point. Make sure it aligns with the other side here. Make sure the seams are open. So just make sure you blend it in. Okay, so I'm done pinning it. I'm just gonna go ahead and then sew my 1/2 inch allowance around the armhole, and then I'll do the same thing to the other side too. So I'm done attaching the sleeve to the top, and this is how it looks like at the front and then the back. Okay, so it's time to sew the skirt. So with the skirt, I went ahead to cut 2 separate pieces for the Ankara print, and then 2 lining pieces like so. I also went ahead to cut out the band separately. I added 1/2 inch at the top here and then 1/2 inch at the bottom part here. So after cutting it out, I went ahead to iron my stiff or gum stay to all the band pieces for the front and for the back. So I'm just gonna go ahead and then take this out. Okay, so these are my 2 front pieces right here. So the next thing I'll be doing is joining the band to the waist for both front and back pieces. And also do the same thing to the back pieces. Okay, so these are my front and back pieces right here. I also went ahead to pin my band to the lining like this. So when you're cutting out the front band, make sure you cut up to 4 pieces. So 2 for the lining and then 2 for the main fabric. So same thing for the back here. So I'm just gonna take it to my machine and then join all the bands together for both front and back. Okay, so I'm done attaching my band to all the pieces right here. So the next thing I'm going to be working on is the hem down here. So just pick the lining piece for the skirt like this. So before joining the hem to the hem here, go ahead and then trim this point here by 1/2 inch for just the lining. So just go ahead and mark 1/2 inch for the lining here and then trim it. So I've done that already. So by the time you are done joining it and then you turn it to the other side, this place enters inside by 1/2 inch. Okay, so I'm just gonna do that. So if you look at the top part here, this side is way longer than the lining piece. So just place them right side to right side like this, and then go ahead and then join them at the hem here. So I'm going to do that for all the pieces I have right here, and then do that same thing for the back pieces too. Then I'll show you what to do next. So I'm done stitching the hem. These are my 4 pieces right here. So this is exactly what I was talking about. So when you trim the lining and then you join it and then you fold it back like this, 1/2 inch goes inside like you can see here. So just go ahead, make sure that the band meets at this point here, then you just go ahead and then press it. So I'm going to be doing that right now. I'll do that for the rest of the pieces too. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'll be taking my left skirt like this. This is my left skirt, so I want my buttonholes to be here and then the buttons to be here. So I'm just going to be working with the left skirt right now. So just take the left skirt like this, cut out a stiff piece. This is medium, so cut out a stiff piece of about 1.5. That's the width I added for the center front here, 1.5 by the length of your skirt here. And then just go ahead and then press it on this side. So press it at the wrong side here. I'm done pressing the stiff to the left side of my skirt. So like I said, this is where the buttonholes is going to be, so that's where you have to press the stiff. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'll be closing the sides here. So turn it all the way to the other side, the wrong side like this. Place them on each other like this, and then pin it to the lining. So after you're done pinning it, you're just going to sew a quarter here, just a quarter. Don't make it up to 1/2 inch, so just a quarter right here. So you do the same thing to the other side here. So by the time you finish stitching, the sides, the center front here has been finished. So I'm done stitching my quarter at the center front here. So I'm just gonna iron it. So after we're done pressing it, we're going to mark the rest of the allowance that we have left. It was 1.5 inch at this side, and then I stitched a quarter, so I'll be left with 1.25. So go ahead and then mark it at this point and down here too. Do the same thing for the other skirt. Then we're just going to be folding that side in, and then we'll go ahead and then press it. So you do that to the other side too. Okay, so after pressing it, this is how it's going to look like. So it will fold in like this, and then at the other side here too. So it's time for us to join our back skirt to our front skirt. So just take a back skirt like this and then place it on the skirt side to side. So I'm just gonna pin it down all the way to the end here. Okay, so I'll join the other side too. Then I'll go ahead and then stitch my 2 inch allowance at this point all the way to the end here, and then I'll do that for the other skirt too. So after sewing it, our pieces will look like this. The next thing I'm going to do is I'll be overlapping the right one on the left one. So just measure in 1 inch at this point, and then make sure that it's 1 inch from here all the way to the hem, and then just overlap it and pin it. So make sure that the overlapping is directly on the 1 inch like this, and then just pin it down. Okay, so after you are done pinning it, we're going to be joining the top to the skirt. So just take your top, place it side by side like this, so side to side, and then pin this point here, and then place the other side too and pin it. Okay, so we're just going to be pinning this side, so pin it all the way to here, and then do that same thing to the other side. And then go ahead and then pin the back too. So after joining the waist like this, just go ahead and then sew half an inch from here to this point here, and then continue it from this point all the way to the other end. So I'm done joining the waist. This is how it's looking like. So we're going to finish this side here. So there are so many ways you can finish this side. So you can fold it in twice like this. So just fold it in a quarter and then fold it in another quarter like this, since we have only half-inch allowance at that side. And then sew it from this tip here to the point here. So you do the same thing for the other side, or you can just go ahead and then serge it with your serging machine and then fold it in once like this and then sew it. So if you don't also want the thread to be showing at this point, after you're done serging it or even folding it in, just go ahead and then use your hand needle to just hem this side all the way to this point. That's if you don't want the thread to show at this point here. Okay, so for me, I'll just be serging it and then folding it in and then top stitching this part all the way to the point. So I'll do the same thing for the other side and I'll show you what to do next. So I'm done stitching it. This is how that side is going to look like. So I just serged it like this and then I turned it and then stitched and then top stitch this part here. So I'm going to be working with the zipper at the back. I'll be using this jacket zipper right here. This is about 22 inch. Okay, so I'm going to mark the length of my zipper. So I want my zipper to stop somewhere here. So wherever it stops here, just go ahead and then stitch it from here to the hem. So I've stitched the bottom part here. So I'm going to be attaching my zipper to the back like so. So I marked 1 inch allowance at this point here. That's my zipper allowance here. So I'll just be placing the zip on that side. Then I'll go ahead and then sew it from here. So when I'm done sewing it from here, I'll just go ahead and then join the other side too, and then sew it from that point too. So I'm done connecting my zipper right here. So now it's time for us to work on the buttons and then the buttonholes. So I went ahead to mark where I'll be stitching my buttonholes. So this is how long I want mine to be. So I'll be stitching about 1 inch at this point because my buttons are not too small and they are not too big. So the 1 inch is just fine for me. But if your buttons are smaller, you can go ahead and use 3/4 or 0.75. So the distance between my buttons are just 2 inches. That's what I've marked at the middle here. So at this point, I went up by ½ inch here and then went down by ½ inch here. That's how come I have 1 inch at this point. So I just did that from the top here all the way to the bottom part. So if you want the space in between your buttons to be longer, you can go ahead, instead of a 2 inch, you can go ahead and use 2.5 or 3 inches. Okay. So I'll be using this machine to create my buttonholes right here. So this machine does this buttonholes. That's what you can see at this point. So if you have this machine, you can use it for your buttonholes. So this is what it will look like. So I'm done stitching my buttonholes. I have about 11 buttonholes here. So after I stitched the buttonholes, I went ahead to top stitch this part right here. That's just the allowance that is here. So go ahead and then top stitch that side here. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'll be placing my buttons here. So I'll be using these blue-black buttons here. Blue-black because blue-black is part of my fabric here. So what I'm going to do is I'll be marking the point where my buttons are going to be, and I'll just be coming in ½ an inch at this point here. So remember I went down 2 inches from this side. So I'll just mark my 2 inches here and I'll do that all the way to the end here. So I'm done marking my buttons. So make sure that you go in ½ an inch before placing your buttons there, and then just go ahead and stitch it like so. Make sure you start from this point here so that it holds this part in place. So this is how our button will be looking like. I'm just going to fix the rest of the buttons, then I'll wear it for you guys to see how it looks like. If you're liking this video so far, don't forget to give me a thumbs up, like, share and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. And if you have any questions about this dress, just leave a comment in the comment section and I'll definitely help you out from there. So this is the dress right here. I went ahead to open both sides of my skirt by 1/2 inch to open it up a bit, but if yours have fitted okay, you can just leave it like that. So if you have tried this dress and you really love it, please let me know in the comment section, or you can reach out to me on Instagram at Leah Crate. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.